70 years. That is 25,550 days of life. Have survived recessions. Have survived heartbreak. I have survived the kind of labor that makes your bones ache just thinking about it. But on my 70th birthday, the day that was supposed to mark my victory lap, I didn't blow out a single candle. I didn't cut a slice of cake. I didn't hear a single happy birthday. I sat alone in a house I built with my own sweat and tears, staring at a phone that refused to ring. I was waiting for the people who were supposed to love me. But the woman who canceled my birthday, my own daughter-in-law, made it very clear that I didn't matter. She told me I was optional. She had no idea that just 3 weeks later, she would be standing on my porch, shaking, crying, and begging to be let inside the very house she disrespected. She thought family meant she could treat me like dirt and still have a safety net. She was wrong. To understand why the silence on my birthday was so deafening, you have to understand the noise that came before it. I am not a demanding woman. I never have been. I come from a generation where you don't ask for things. You earn them. I raised my son Michael on my own. Scraped knees, empty pockets, but a full heart. When his father left, there was no child support and no safety net. Just me, 2 jobs and a prayer. I skipped my dreams so he could chase his. I wore the same winter coat for 12 years so he could have new soccer cleats. I ate burnt toast, leftovers, and I always ate last every single night, just to make sure his plate was full. I stayed silent when I was hurting so peace could stay in our home. And it worked. Michael grew up strong and successful. When he met Elena, I didn't get jealous. I was relieved. I thought, finally, someone else to love him as much as I do. When they married, I welcomed her like my own flesh and blood. I stood in the hallway of this very house, the one I paid for brick by brick, and told her this house is yours too, this family is yours too. I meant every word. I babysat on weekends so they could have date nights. I cooked Sunday dinners. I made myself small so their marriage could be big. But as I approached 70, something shifted. Slowly, quietly. Missed calls. Forgotten Mother's Days. Snide comments about how I moved too slow or how my stories were boring. I swallowed it all because that's what mothers do. We swallow poison and smile so our children don't worry. Turning 70 isn't just another number. It's a milestone. It's a quiet prayer that says, I survived. I didn't want a party or a cruise or jewelry. I wanted one dinner. My son, his wife, my 2 grandchildren, a small cake from the bakery down the street, a few smiles. That was all. I planned it weeks in advance. Cleaned the house top to bottom. Bought the ingredients for Michael's favorite roast. I was excited. Not for gifts but for togetherness. 2 days before my birthday my phone rang. It was Elena. I answered on the first ring. Her voice was calm. "To come." She said they were canceling. I asked if someone was sick. She said no. Her mother's friends were coming to town, and they were hosting a brunch. It would run late. They couldn't make it to my thing. My thing. Not my birthday. Not my 70th milestone. My thing. I laughed nervously and said I'd already bought the roast. She said we'd celebrate later. I asked if later meant today or another day. She sighed loudly, irritated, and then she said it. You're old. What difference does one day make? She hung up. I waited for Michael to call. Surely he would. He never did. That night I set the table anyway. Old habits die hard. I laid out the good tablecloth. Put out 3 plates. Then slowly removed 2. The cake stayed in the box. The candles stayed unlit. I sat alone listening to the grandfather clock tick away the seconds of my birthday. No calls. No text. Fireworks went off somewhere in the distance. Someone else was celebrating. What hurt most wasn't Elena's cruelty. It was my son's silence. He chose peace with his wife over truth with his mother. When midnight came, I realized I had become invisible in the family I built. The next morning the sadness was gone. In its place was clarity. I didn't call them. I didn't text. I just stopped. I stopped being the engine. I went to the bank. He updated my will. I made sure my life wouldn't be left in the hands of people who saw me as optional. I started gardening again. Cooked food I loved. I enjoyed the silence. It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. 3 weeks later, on a stormy Tuesday evening, there was frantic knocking at my door. I opened it slowly. There stood Elena, soaked, shaking, mascara running down her face. Behind her was Michael, holding suitcases, unable to look at me. Her mother had kicked them out. They had nowhere to go. She said we were family. She asked for the guest room. I looked at my son. My instinct screamed to let them in. But then I heard her voice again. What difference does one day make? I told her she had taught me a lesson, that I was optional. And if one day didn't matter then, why did today matter now? I told my son he made a choice. I told Elena I forgave her. But forgiveness doesn't mean access. This house was protected. I was happy in my peace. I would help them find a motel, but they would not live here. She screamed. She cried. She stayed calm. For the first time they saw me, not as a resource, not as a backup plan, but as a woman with boundaries. I wished them luck and closed the door. Gently. Firmly. That night the house was quiet, but it was the quiet of strength. I lit a single birthday candle. I watched it burn. And I realized people who cancel your worth will one day beg for your strength. When that moment comes, you choose dignity or guilt. Chose dignity. Now the relationship is polite, distant, respectful, because they know one thing for certain now. I am not optional.